way too excited for what this one is. Welcome back to Narcissu, episode number 3. I'm just getting all the sillies out before we start. In the last episode, I think we were plotting to escape with the girl. Fuck if I remember. But the rain at morning, midnight. Sometimes sleet, sometimes snow, always coming down. It's so fucking loud. Oh my god. Turn that down a bit. And I was sitting there watching TV in my usual place. 7F felt as devoid of people as it always had. Anything interesting? No, completely boring. She walked to my side. Saying no more, she sat down in a chair next to me. And that was how we began watching TV on this very day as well. She was probably in the same boat as me. Nothing else to do, nothing we could do. Did I not save? Did I not save? I remember those flowers from somewhere. They look very similar to the white flowers that decorated the windowsills. Could those be the same flowers? Okay, no, I haven't seen this part yet. My bad. I thought I didn't save. You know, the same as those over there. I pointed to the flowers by the window and said this. No. Huh, really? They're of the same variety, but they're not strictly the same. She glanced at the flowers by the window for a second, then went back to gazing at the TV. She told me that they were different, but I couldn't see the distinction between the two. And it meant nothing to me whether flowers were the same or different. But what did mean something was this girl who usually never said a word more than she needed to, she was conversing in rare form today, which is why I decided to follow along. Do you happen to know a lot about them? Flowers, that is. Not really. Really? But I don't see the difference. The flowers on the screen and the flowers in the vase to her side. I continued to talk as I stared vacantly at the two. Look, are these orchids or lilies? See, they're pure white, right? I had no interest, yet I kept trying to make conversation. But she resumed her silence soon enough. And with her usual lack of expression, she continued staring at the boring TV screen. And just when I turned back to the TV, resigned to the fact that I'd get nothing more out of her. Narcissus. What? Those are narcissus. As she answered, she turned to face me for the first time. Her hip-length hair swaying, she pointed at the TV screen and looked at me. The ID bracelet on her wrist was white. Her skin was white, just like the flowers on screen. And I swore I could see a tiny smile on that face that was looking at me for the first time. Ayo. Oh, is that it? Oh, okay, now we can move on to Chapter 2, The Silver Coupe. Alright, hold on. Alright, clowns. Chapter 2, The Silver Coupe. A few days later, plunging further into the depths of winter, during this time that the rest of the world called exam period, we were sitting watching TV, the same as ever. This is boring. So it is. This exchange could not even be called a conversation. We'd spent all our days in this fashion, killing time without meaning or purpose. Speaking of which, when is it for you? Today? I see, so it's today. That word, that today, was a temporary discharge that she'd alluded to earlier. So we may not see each other again. Yeah, I guess that's true. Because even if she were to be readmitted to 7F, that would be her last time. And in that time, I'd probably be discharged and readmitted myself. It didn't seem likely that things could be timed so that we could see each other again. Have you decided yet? About where I'm going to die? Yeah. No, not yet. I see. She nodded somewhat sadly, the expression of someone being discharged for the second time. I still felt nothing about the situation, and I hadn't heard from the doctors about my first discharge. Come to think of it, I wondered if she'd finally decided what her own answer to the dilemma would be. Click, click, click. Setsumi, everything's set. A lady came up to us with these words. This was probably her mother. She nodded slightly at me. I did not rise. We'll be leaving soon, but are you all ready? Yeah. Well, have a nice day, sir. She nodded slightly at me again and then turned to leave this place. I thought we were a girl. She did stretch out her hand towards that girl who was likely her daughter. But the girl did not move at all. She stayed rooted in her chair even after her mother had grabbed her hand. What's wrong, Setsumi? It hurts. A little. What? Where? Your chest? Your abdomen? My chest. Stay right there. I'll call the doctors right away. Click, click, click. She took off, in visitor-use slippers, in a sprint towards the nurse's station. There were but two things left in this place, her and me, both in chairs. I did not know a thing about her disease or its status. The only things I knew were courtesy of her white ID bracelet. Her name was Setsumi and her blood type was O. But we were inhabitants of 7F, and she was older than me, if just by a little. Hey, do you want to lie down over there until the doctors come? I pointed at the corner of the lounge, at the couch, at something that I'd never seen used. It'll support your back after all. Doesn't matter, I'm fine now. Saying those words and nothing more, she stood up quickly. Hey, wait! Don't do anything foolish. She was already halfway down the corridor before I could finish the sentence. Nightfall, after lights out. Bored of reading manga as usual, I wandered through the darkened hospital. The usual lounge now pitch dark from the absence of light. That was where I found her. Hey, so you're still here? Yeah. What's up, not feeling well again? Not really, was all she said as she stared at the window. So her discharge had been postponed after all. No one knew when the next chance would come, but it would probably be weeks from now, not days. Hey, could it be that you feigned illness today? No, that probably wasn't the right way to put it. See, you couldn't say that we weren't sick all the time. What I'm saying is, you didn't want to leave the hospital, did you? I don't know what you're talking about. Because there is no afterwards for you now. But there was no answer to my question in her silence. She had asked me so many times before about where I wanted to die. It had always been that I didn't know yet, and that she didn't want to die at home or here on 7F. So you have no other place to go after all. And what of it? No, nothing. This familiar lounge flooded in darkness, her familiar stance, looking out the window without so much as acknowledging my existence. This place we called a hospital and its extinguished lights in spite of the fact that it was only 11 p.m. or so. This was the tangent point between what was normal and what was not. On top of that, we were inhabitants of 7F, bereft of any choice save one, death on 7F or death at home. The outside world that she was staring at from the pitch-black heights of 7F, the normal world. The building and homes were still radiant with light, and the street overflowed with people going home. And although my awareness of it was still vague, I was already an inhabitant of 7F, already an abnormal existence. There was no longer any way for me to go back to that other world, was there now? My time is at a standstill. I'd spent so many seasons, so many white overcast skies, without the want or need to converse with anybody. At first, I would look down at the healthy kids going to school and the people walking back and forth in the streets, and when I got tired of that, I always watched TV. Nothing else to do, nothing else I could do. Even when there was snow outside the window, it was always bright and sunny inside the TV screen. A dream world, stretching out before my eyes without heat, without cold, without pain. I sought comfort from my imagination, and so I amassed a huge knowledge base, meaningless trivia upon meaningless trivia over and over. And before I knew it, nothing that appeared on TV seemed real anymore. And in quick succession, it also happened to books, games, and then my family. Finally, I was unable to view myself as anything real, as if I were staring at scenes of another person's life. That's why I was not surprised even when they transferred me to 7F. But if I closed my eyes, the world would always vanish. So I thought I'd be fine. And I did as I thought. And soon enough, my second discharge from the hospital. By the time of my next admission, I'd probably be too weak to stand by myself. I found my own self, the one who couldn't do anything even though she knew this, to be so pitiful. I found my own self, the one who had no destination, to be ridiculous. My time at a standstill, my heart at a standstill, my chest standing still with huge scars. I'd lived for 22 years now and I found myself utterly helpless. Yo, why'd the music stop like that? Yo, why'd the music stop like that? A few days after that, the overhanging clouds had cleared up, and an endless, endless white sky was in their place. Oddly enough, my father had come to visit, a difficult expression on his face the entire time. But he was saying something or other about my insurance, and at that time his eyes were not unhappy at all. I have to talk to the doctors for a bit. Saying this, my father strode down the corridor, toward that dim conference room where all this had begun, or so it seemed. My hospital room was now empty. Having nothing to do now, I reached for the weekly magazines that they'd brought at the stands for me. And accompanying them, just as ever, were fruits and drinks and get-well gifts. And to one side of the basket that the fruits were piled in, right in front of the melons that I so hated. What I saw was a set of car keys. The keys shone silver. They were the keys to my father's pride and joy, the coupe that he'd sweated over from the upholstery on outwards, the coupe that I'd asked to borrow a long time ago, that I'd been told no without a single second's delay, and my still unused driver's license in the breast pocket of my pajamas. Even after it had lost its chance for use that day, it remained with me waiting, as if that were proof of life. Click. In silence, I grabbed the keys. Ooh, what are we gonna do with the keys? What are we gonna do? I'm saving the game. We're gonna find out next time what we're gonna do with those keys. We gonna steal the car? I don't know. I'll see you next time, though. I'm gonna get up out. Bye-bye.